Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for My Hero Academia Season 4, Episode 5. So, before I get into the actual meat of the episode, let's talk adaptation and pacing. Because for me, the biggest concern I had going into this season was the length of this current arc and how much space it would take up. But between this episode and last episode, I was reminded of. I'm getting reminded of how much quicker events move when they're translated from the page to animation, and with what was covered in this episode, I'm I'm generously going to say that I imagine the next 9-10 episodes is what's going to be that is going to wrap up this arc because from this point on, everything is going to move at such an amazingly fast pace, and if what I'm saying is true, then then at the same time, this would also leave room in order to adapt the next two arcs after this. Would adapt the next two arcs after this because the next two arcs actually are relatively short. So Bones could possibly use the remainder of the remainder of the episodes after this arc in order to tackle those arcs. But again, again, a lot of what I'm saying here is dependent on how close my prediction is. Like, I'm not 100% sure how long Bones is going to how long Bones does intend to, how many more episodes Bones tends to use in order to adapt this arc. But yeah, if the pacing is handled correctly, I think they could theoretically tackle this arc and the next two after it. So but like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. It is dependent on how much longer this arc is going to be. But if memory serves me too, I think after this point on, things go like boom 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 boom, things go extremely quickly. So yeah, I imagine we're not going. Yeah, I imagine we're not going to be too much longer in this arc either way. Um, and yeah, the episode starts off in the best way possible by showing us Ochako and Sue at their internships, and just within that small moment, we're already starting to see things form around the main plot of the arc, as Ryukyu mentions that basically Sue and Ochako are going to be involved with a certain matter, i.e. the raid on basically on the Yakuza base. In general, though, it was just a nice moment to see them again, because after season 2, I feel Sue and Ochako in particular were sort of put on the back burner and given very sparse moments in between after that. So it'll be nice to see them play an active role in the story again. Actually, if memory serves me correctly, I wouldn't mind a little expansion on their role in this arc, but I imagine, as per usual, we'll be sticking pretty close we'll be sticking as close as we can to the manga story, which is still good enough spotlight for these two. But yeah, I want to see Yoshiko and Sue just get as much screen time as humanly possible with this arc. So, which again, I think with this arc they are going to get a fair amount of it. Now, after that, we switch over to how last week's episode ended off with basically Shigaraki meeting Overhaul, and within that whole meeting, you can see Shigaraki has already learned from their previous encounter he pretty much lays it on the table almost immediately. He was there in order to lay the terms of their agreement, and not once, even when having that gun pointed to his head, did he back down or flinch. He basically stared the Shi Hasakai straight in the face and said, "Those are my conditions. Take it or leave it." And I do enjoy how it's showing from Shigaraki's ability in order to be a real leader now, and a real leader now. It really is basically showing of what potential it already is showing, like the pretty much vast potential that Shigaraki has in order to be a leader. So yeah, I really like him. So yeah, a nice moment for Shigaraki for sure, and I and honestly, it really is just as a manga reader, I can say it really is just the start of something great for his character, because after this point, he only gets better. Weird as it is to say. Um, all right, now let's get to the main focus of this episode, Kirishima. And first off, the one thing I really like about his development in this episode is that a large part of it was acknowledging how much he had fallen behind the other students, and discovering what had been holding him back is that he had, whether unconsciously or not, what's happening with Kirishima is he basically developed an inferiority complex from from basically always comparing himself to pretty much his peers and everyone around him. But in this episode, but by being pushed so far against the wall, by being pushed so far in this battle with that guy who had his quirk enhanced, he was he was pushed so far to the point where he was able to break through that mental barrier, and by breaking through that mental barrier and not caring about anyone else around him, and by not caring about like his on his opinion of anyone else around him, he was able to truly like break free and develop his powers. Like he developed his powers through basically just having confidence in himself, and just not comparing himself to others. And so yeah, it was a nice test of showing that it was what happens when it's what happens when it just shows how amazing a person can be when they're from not putting themselves down, and not thinking of themselves as inferior. They can do great things. And yeah, I said it when it was first revealed in the manga, and I'll say it here again. Kirishima's new form is just badass, and what makes it so great is that when you really look at like Kirishima's powers all this time, Kirishima has mostly used his powers as a defense and a shield, as it were. But now with this new form he now has the perfect defense and offense. What Kirishima has now is he's basically gotten a new his basically shield was broken, but in place of that he got a new shield, and with this new form he's basically also pretty much developed a sword, like basically this new form can be used as both an offense and a defense as well. And so as it can be used as both an offense and a defense, so it really just shows that he's developed how by letting himself go, he was able to develop his power into something that can be used for both, that can be used for both, and instead of just for one aspect. And also and this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but just on a technical level of the artwork, the animation, all that, I kind of like the reveal of his new form here even more than in the manga. Like, I know an unpopular opinion probably, because the manga chapter of this was basically amazing. But just on the reveal itself, I think I kind of prefer the anime a little bit on this one. It's probably just the voice acting and music. I think that's probably what helps it. But yeah, the anime. I think the anime is just a slight cut above the manga for me with this moment. Now, another thing that happens in this episode is we get the bulk of Overhaul's plan, which is to basically suppress the quirks using those special bullets, and supposedly render Hero Society powerless. And even though right now suppressing quirks seems to be the only thing they can do, you pretty much got to imagine that Overhaul's plans extend even beyond that. And at some point, he plans to develop like develop bullets that can erase a quirk like permanently and completely. And looking back on this episode as a manga reader and the content within it, there's clearly a malicious intent being built up around Overhaul's plan, but then at the same time it makes you think for a second. Would it really be terrible if quirks were erased from society? I mean, obviously it depends on how far Overhaul takes this quirk erasure, but the thing is, there is an air there is a little bit of nobility to this cause if you strip away the veneer of him being a villain, because if you really think about it, how this whole thing of hero society, villain society, like I'm not gonna say like that crime wasn't a problem. I'm not saying that crime wasn't a problem even before quirks, but after quirks became a thing, like society became even more divided down the middle than pretty much ever before when quirks weren't around. So it's in that particular sense, you could say that you could definitely say that there is a little bit of a noble aspect to pretty much Overhaul's cause. Now, the part that is less noble and should still be condemned as shit, however, is the fact that it's more than likely that basically Eri is involved in this plan somehow, because as we last saw when Overhaul was basically guiding her towards a chair. So I imagine she is involved in the creation of these special bullets. It's kind of obvious just from previous episodes that she's involved in the creation of these special bullets somehow. And yeah, it should never be okay in order for a child to be abused. I don't care what her powers are or whatnot. Now and getting back to Kirishima for a moment, we after he defeats that villain and whatnot, we get a small little scene of small little flashback scene, and you can see that one of the people you can see in his flashback is Mina, pretty much. So it's I'm not gonna lie, it's very, when we finally get to that flashback, the full details of it, it's really an interesting flashback, honestly, because in many respects it weirdly kind of shows. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say anything, but let's just say it is kind of there's an interesting parallel between like Kirishima's backstory and kind of Izuku in a way. But like I said, I'll save details for when we get it. But the last minutes of this episode, we basically snuck in a moment where Izuku is trying to grapple with his choice of not being able to save Eri while thinking of the current circumstances he's in. But just the fact that Izuku could basically toss aside the latter circumstances, like the whole thing with All Might and whatnot, for right now, in favor of thinking about Eri, is something that kind of in a way already shows his worth. I mean, obviously, like he cares about All Might and whatnot, but just with him like thinking of the current endeavor he has to go through of saving Eri from whatever she's going through. That in a way it already shows its worth, and we're starting to see that a lot of what's going on, what he's going through right now, might just be a bigger test on Night Eye's part to some degree. So yeah, a little bit of interesting insight with that too. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and any other Crunchyroll. Dead Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, guys.